I'd now like to invite to the stage Archbishop Paul Coakley.
How do you follow that? I mean, what a beautiful testimony, Deacon Alex. Thank you so very, very much. From your heart, you have made this evening what we hoped it might be. That is an inspiration to all of us who have come together to support vocations in the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. We thank you for your response to God's call. So grateful to God for all of our seminarians, all of our discerners, all of our families, all of our pastors and parishioners who have encouraged these young men in their journey. Well, Deacons Alex, Zach, and John were ordained here in Oklahoma City this past June. I look forward to being present for the diaconate ordinations of two more of our young men, Will Banowski and Jerome Krug, who will be ordained in Rome this fall. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit my alma mater, to return to my alma mater at Mount St. Mary Seminary in Emmitsburg, Maryland. Father Novak, Deacon Norm Maestrick, Molly Bernard, and a group of others working together on plans for our new Blessed Stanley Rother Shrine have been visiting a number of shrines over the course of the last few months. And we went back to the East Coast to visit the Basilica National Shrine of Our Lady in Washington, D.C., to visit the National Lourdes Grotto in Emmitsburg, to visit the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Shrine in Emmitsburg and in Baltimore. On our visit to the Mount, the rector of the seminary there, it let us know that just recently Archbishop Laurie, the Archbishop of Baltimore, had declared Mount St. Mary Seminary to be the Archdiocesan Shrine of Blessed Stanley Rother, and made a decree on the feast day of Blessed Stanley to that effect. So the cult, the devotion, the official recognition of Blessed Stanley Rother is growing. It's extending. It's spreading throughout our country and really around the world. The shrine at Mount St. Mary Seminary includes a beautiful new statue of Blessed Stanley Rother and a first-class relic. People from all over the eastern seaboard of our country have been coming to Mount St. Mary to honor our Oklahoma martyr, our Oklahoma priest, our Oklahoma blessed. And it was such a beautiful experience to visit the Mount. I was a seminarian at Mount St. Mary at the time that Father Rother was killed. It was a very important moment for me in my own priestly formation and discernment as a seminarian to have heard firsthand of the death of this devoted son of the Mount, as we called it, this priest of Oklahoma, who I had never heard of up to that point, but to celebrate with our seminarians, my brother seminarians at that time, the life of this heroic young priest. During the year following, his parents and his Sister Marita, visited the seminary, and I had a chance to meet them and to learn about his life, and have, from that time until now, been inspired, been drawn by, been attracted by the witness of this great this priest who is one of our own here in Oklahoma. While we were visiting the seminary Sunday afternoon, Monsignor Baker, the rector of the seminary today, shared with me several volumes of material that the seminary has collected over the course of the last 35 years or so about Blessed Stanley. They had his transcripts, they had his letters applying for admission, they had correspondence from many, many different people about this young man who had struggled mightily in the course of his own discernment, in the course of his own initial formation. As you know the story, he didn't quite make it his first attempt when he was studying at a seminary in Texas, which we never name, because they didn't think he was going to cut it. And so they cut him loose. Bishop Reed didn't give up on him. Seminarian Stanley was convinced that he had a vocation, and they contacted Monsignor Mulcahy, then the rector of Mount St. Mary, and asked that they take this young man into consideration. And so to see the letters, the correspondence between Bishop Reed and Monsignor Mulcahy, and Bishop Reed really going to bat for Stanley Rother, saying that this is a fine young man with great qualities, great moral character, well thought of, hard worker. He doesn't know much Latin, but he's a good prospect. And the seminary accepted him. And to go back to that moment, that time of his formation as a seminarian, and to really get an insight into what it was like for him and for the seminary and for the diocese, the Archdiocese, well, still it was the Diocese of Oklahoma City and Tulsa, to be working with this young man and encouraging his vocation. It was really a moment of tremendous grace for me. I have always been touched by the witness of Blessed Stanley Rother, and that was a tremendous experience for all of us who were in that room this past Sunday afternoon. There were several letters between Father Stanley as he was serving in Guatemala and then rector of the seminary, Father Harry Flynn, later Archbishop of St. Paul in Minneapolis. They had become friends. Father Stan had come back to the Mount when he was discerning what to do at that moment, that difficult moment in his priesthood when he knew things were getting dangerous for him in Guatemala, and he went back to his seminary, the seminary that had nurtured his vocation, where he had experienced the Lord's love and presence and the support of the community there. He went back there to seek the Lord's guidance and the intercession of our Blessed Mother as he plotted his path forward. So reviewing those transcripts, the correspondence was a powerfully moving experience. I'll also tell you that it's quite clear that while Stanley Rother struggled with the academic side of his formation as a young man, the faculty of the seminary was highly impressed with him. They felt strongly that he was going to make a good priest, indeed a great priest. Many of the early bishops of the United States came from Mount St. Mary Seminary, to the extent that early on during the 19th century, the Mount was known as the cradle of bishops. So many of the early bishops of this country came from Mount St. Mary Seminary. Monsignor Baker, the rector of the seminary today, mentioned last weekend when we were there visiting that in light of Blessed Stanley Rother and before him St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, whose own vocation was nurtured in Emmitsburg, where she spent her life, that now the Mount and that area is being called the Cradle of Saints. What a great testimony. So let me just say how grateful I am to all of you for your support for the foundation and education of our seminarians. There may be a future saint, formally recognized by the Church among them. What you do in helping to fund the St. John Vianney Seminary Fund, the annual Seminarian Education Appeal, and other activities is absolutely critical. The largest line item in our Archdiocesan budget each and every year is seminarian education. And you see here the testimony, the witness, the presence of our seminarians, that it is a good investment to invest in them and in their future. So I want to thank you for your support of our seminarians, for your prayers, first of all, for your encouragement of vocations, but for your generous financial contributions as well. With Father Bittner's efforts and your ongoing support, I have every reason and every confidence to believe that we will continue to have an increasing number of seminarians to prepare for the priesthood in the Archdiocese of Oklahoma City. So grateful to Father Irwin for his accompaniment of our young men once they have been accepted as our seminarians, and for Father Fuller, who has so graciously accepted the responsibility of working with our young men and assisting them, guiding them through the years of priestly formation in seminary. Last year, Father Irwin introduced 18 seminarians, including 5 new seminarians. This year, Father Fuller introduced 23, 8 new seminarians. Seminary is a time of great grace. As I mentioned, I went to Mount St. Mary Seminary, which I'm proud to say is the alma mater of Blessed Stanley Rother. And Father Louis Lamb, who some of you knew, what a beautiful, holy place that it is. A seminary is a place for continuing discernment as well as priestly formation. Not everyone who is called to seminary will finish and be ordained as a priest, but all will benefit from their time in the seminary. I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's an experience of Christian community, of profound discernment, formation in prayer, and in our Catholic faith. So thank you once again for your support. Thank you especially for all of our sponsors for their gifts to this endowment and for making this evening such a wonderful success. Those of you who are here as guests, I ask you first and foremost for your prayers for our seminarians. Thank you very much, all of you, for being with us this evening. God bless you.